Can you tell me just to start, your name and where you served and what critical needs you were addressing while you were serving, and just get us launched into who you are.
Yeah,
Welcome, Blake.
absolutely. My name is Blake Mauthe, and I served as an AmeriCorps member at the Indiana County Conservation District. I think it was year 23 to 24. And then kind of the major things that I was focused on as an AmeriCorps member at that position was, I did a lot of the education stuff. So going into schools and making sure that we were teaching our kids about, environmental literacy and making sure that they were aware of what we did at the conservation district. But mainly, a lot of what I did was assisting with water sampling, to be able to go out and, keep track of what's happening in our streams. So then we can assist larger organizations to be able to implement stream treatment systems, so whether that be a passive system or a mechanical system. And then in the spring and summer, I did a lot of the garden maintenance and management there. So a lot of starting seeds, mainly veggies and flowers particularly. So the flowers is fun. I like to always mention them because they're really important for our pollinators. So we really helped establish pollinator habitat around the conservation district. I had a pretty heavy hand in creating the pollinator meadows. So that's one thing, but really what was important about managing the gardens is we have a high tunnel, so we're able to grow a lot of produce in there. And all the produce that we grew was then donated to food banks and kitchens. I think now this will go outside of my term a little bit because I do, still work at the conservation district as the
Yeah.
educator now. But I think in the year that I was there, we donated nearly 1,000 pounds of produce. So that is a lot to be able to account for our community and just getting people access to those things that they don't necessarily have access to begin with. So.
Wow. So addressing environmental stewardship on land
Mhm.
and also water quality improvement, as well as healthy futures, community wellness, and getting people critical resources to address food insecurity issues. Good
Absolutely.
night, Blake. You
Yes.
were getting things done as an
Absolutely.
AmeriCorps.
Absolutely.
Okay, so tell me a little bit about maybe a challenge you faced during your term, how that challenge helped you grow as a leader. Yeah, I'm just interested in it's great to talk about like the warm and fuzzies, which is
Yeah.
awesome. I love those, but it's the challenges that help us grow, right?
Yeah,
So grow through
absolutely.
those challenges.
Absolutely. So, I mean, at the conservation district there, I mean, I already talked about a bunch of different pieces. So,
Hmm.
really, I think the main challenge was kind of figuring out, how do I help with all these pieces and manage it in an easy way, And so really the challenge was, managing all of the little things that I was doing. And in that instance, I really just having the support of a team and being able to work in a team is really how I address that challenge specifically. So, I have all of these little things in my mind and things that need done, but specifically our AmeriCorps team, us working together, we wouldn't have been able to accomplish what we did without the assistance of everybody. So the
Wow.
challenges, were how do I manage all of these things and how do I help everybody at the district? Well, working as a team is the way to do that. And
Wow.
so yeah.
Yeah, so learning time management,
Mhm.
organization, collaboration, all
Absolutely.
those things and how to function well on a team,
Yeah.
like, yeah, because I think you're relatively young, yes, coming
Yes.
out
Yeah.
of school. So,
Yep.
I mean, yeah, this was AmeriCorps one of your first sort of full-time things that you did?
Yeah. So AmeriCorps was the only thing I really had full time before that was an internship at Yellow Creek, and so AmeriCorps was my first full-time thing. I actually was going to college while I was in my AmeriCorps turn. So I finished
Wow.
2 semesters while working full-time as an AmeriCorps, so at the conservation.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, and so figuring out, how do I function well on a team as a young adult, knowing that I bring a lot to the table, but that I also have a lot to learn. And this was my
absolutely.
first, so it sounds like that was a huge challenge for you and also a huge area of growing. You mentioned that you're actually still you transitioned from being an AmeriCorps member at the district to now you're on staff at the Indiana County
Yeah.
Conservation District. Can you tell me a little bit about that and how your term sort of impacted your next steps for employment?
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, I mean, when I first started, they actually didn't have an educator.
Oh, wow.
So they, AmeriCorps was kind of, that was kind of just a little bit of part of what I did. But it really wasn't even the majority of things. But, creating community outreach, programs and workshops, things along those lines was kind of what I started with. And then I just kind of continued to, I guess, put on workshops and events that, Doug, the director at the conservation district, seemed
Right.
to like and enjoy. And so I just kind of continued to work hard and push forward. And I think what I started in August, and I think about December, Doug asked if I was able and willing to, if they would hold the position for me for the educator until August, until my term is up. So it kind of was, I showed up. I did the best that I could, and it made an impact on what I was doing. So Doug kind of liked the work that I was doing. He wanted to keep me. So this AmeriCorps term was really I wouldn't have had that experience without I would have had to go a completely different route. So my
Wow.
American term, really helped me get in there, show what I could do, and then I was offered a position. And actually, I think it was in December or January of my term, and then I had to hold until August, and then I became the educator. So yeah,
Wow. And that's
really
so
just getting
cool
in there
that
and showing what I could do, and then I was offered a job. So
Yeah, yeah. So a direct impact on your
mhm.
very next steps. And it's
Yeah,
very cool
absolutely.
that, yeah, that the host site, realized, okay, this is not a rule that we've had before,
Mhm.
but because of your particular interests and your particular skill set, they were able to see, oh, this is something that the district really wants to engage in. And
Yeah.
we're gonna invest in Blake and
Yeah.
invest in Indiana County, like
Yeah.
that's amazing,
No, yeah.
actually.
It really felt good to me as well. So
Yeah, so okay, so that's definitely a relationship with you and the people, your supervisors, and were there, you mentioned that you served on a team as
Mhm.
part of your AmeriCorps experience.
Yeah.
So tell me a little bit about maybe some of those relationships that were impactful, or maybe other networking relationships you made during your term that have been significant for you.
Absolutely. And so yeah, I say working as a team, and I mean, when I was in AmeriCorps, we had me and there were 2 other full-time AmeriCorps, and then in the spring and summer we had 2 300-hour AmeriCorps. So
Right.
us working as an AmeriCorps team was awesome. And we were able to, do a lot more than what I would have been able to do by myself. But not only that, but beyond our AmeriCorps team, we of course worked really well together. And when I was lacking on something, somebody else was able to pick up, and vice versa. But also working in a team at the conservation district.
Right.
There's us as AmeriCorps, but we also work with the watershed specialist and the dirt gravel road specialist, and everybody else in that office. So being able to work with odd partners that aren't necessarily normal is awesome and a great experience. And
Right. Right.
and so like and I can give you an example if you would like.
Yeah, I would
So
love that. I would love that.
we were working. so aging services is not something that, the conservation district really works with,
Right, right.
It's kind of unrelated.
An
Um,
unconventional partnership there. Yeah.
Absolutely. So unconventional partnerships is something that I really, and even into my position now, is something that I've taken on. And
Yeah.
so I've created, we actually had a grant to, do some community garden type things. And so my thought was to do it with aging services. So we did it with aging services. And I actually did a 3-part program with SNAP education, teaching them how to garden, and then teaching them how to cook
Wow.
something with the produce from their garden. So and we did it at 3 different locations. And actually, to move that on to now at my current position, I actually
Right.
just was able to go to the National Conservation District meeting conference in Salt Lake City, and I presented
Wow.
on that program
No
about
way.
odd partnerships and
Yeah.
creating those partnerships that you may not always think are the ones to go for, but
Right.
so that's just a kind of a specific example of
Yeah, I love
I
that
was able,
example.
yeah, I was able to bring together, aging services, the
Right.
conservation district, Greater Pittsburgh Food Bank, and Adagio Health. Um,
Wow.
so all of those partners work together to be able to put on this Growing for Good Health program, and increase food accessibility. And this will be our second year doing it. We're going to do it again, and
Wow.
to continue doing it for, as long as I'm at the district. So
And you know what, Blake?
yeah.
That's addressing some bigger systemic things, right?
Yeah.
It's like outside of you just,
Mhm.
working on those unconventional partnerships. It's also like there are tons and tons of nonprofits doing awesome things in Western Pennsylvania, but
Absolutely.
not a lot of communication
Mhm.
across or I mean, there is some and there are great partnerships, but sometimes we get pocketed in our
Yeah.
little areas, like what you just said,
Mhm.
and being able to bridge some of those gaps is so critical. And
Yeah.
it's so cool to think of like your position as an AmeriCorps member
Mhm.
being a bridge to some of those gaps in services and really helping people access the services that are critical to help them thrive. That's incredible. I love
Absolutely.
that.
Yeah.
Excellent example. I
Yeah.
love that. Okay. So, the Corps this year is in the middle of our 30th year of service.
Mhm.
And so I just want to finish up our conversation with maybe a word of encouragement for this year's Corps from
Absolutely.
Blake, from the one and only Blake.
Absolutely. AmeriCorps position is what you make it. I
Right.
didn't have to make those connections or those partnerships, but I saw it as a cool opportunity and I did it, and it turned into something really cool and awesome. So